All right, so American wellness. It's an important thing, right? My next guest, Jennifer Galardi, easy for me to say this morning, Senior Policy Analyst for Restoring American Wellness at the Heritage Foundation's DeVos Center. Joining me now, Jennifer, welcome to the program.
Thanks, good morning.
Good to have you here. So, toxic twins, you know, I had a friend of mine who died last year as a farmer. Was around Roundup for years and years. I can't say that that's what caused his death, but he was around pesticides of all sorts as a farmer growing corn and beans and wheat and all that. So you've got this liability shield, but you've also got liability shields for big pharma. Why do these big corporations get to act with impunity and never have to pay up if they're doing something they know is dangerous, potentially dangerous? Why are they given a pass?
Well, it's one of the biggest profit makers for companies like Bayer, who owns both pharmaceutical products and agricultural chemical products. So there hasn't been a liability shield yet for pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, anything that's used in agricultural production. But there is that for vaccines, as you mentioned, for the pharmaceutical companies back in 1986. I'm not sure if your viewers are aware, but vaccine manufacturers were awarded legal protections through the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act. And essentially, that created a fund or a compensation program as an alternative remedy to judicial action, which is just code for you cannot sue pharmaceutical companies if something goes wrong after a vaccine. They claim a lot of the times that how are we supposed to have a budget or do research and development for new drugs and new vaccines if we're sued kind of out the wazoo for every time something goes wrong. So they created this compensation program, but everybody who's tried to use it says it's really of no worth.
Well, there's several things here. I'd like to dive in and unpack a couple of things here because there's some things that people need to understand. First of all, we are a litigious country. You know, we're a litigious society. So I think there are far too many lawsuits, and there should be tort reform in this country, which would change some of these problems. But also, pharmaceuticals, Big Pharma, is the number one supporter of television programming, especially news in this country. Also an important fact to figure in when you're looking at these things and go, oh, well, they pay for NBC and CBS and ABC. They fund the bills. These are all very important things, aren't they? When you look at the big picture and say, look, Dow Corning, bankrupted for breast implants that were later proven to be not the problem. Bankrupted, sued into oblivion by lawyers. That's a fact. Destroyed that company was, never to come back. So you've got a problem with too many lawyers with too many frivolous lawsuits that sometimes win, and then you've got big companies that have too much money and power that try to insulate themselves against any lawsuits. I think these are all problems.
Yes. Well, you have to allow citizens their right to due process and their right to, if they indeed were injured, like your friend, if it can be proven. So part of what Kennedy is calling for is this kind of gold standard science to make sure that we can draw the appropriate conclusions around pesticides, around vaccines. I think tort reform is important as well. But you also mentioned a very important point, which most of the advertising, it doesn't take a genius when you watch a football game or any news show. It's like brought to you by Pfizer, brought to you by Moderna. Like it is, I don't have a television, and every time I watch one, I'm always astonished at how many pharmaceutical commercials there are. And they've turned them into these almost song and dance shows, very, very theatrical productions, making pharmaceuticals look glorious. And even worse is it's not so much to get to the consumer, which that's part of it, but it is kind of to silence the media in coming out with reports against pharmaceutical companies. So it's almost like a payoff. It's a bribe, really.
And yet, if Donald Trump comes out and says, look, there might be a problem with Tylenol, my God, I'll see pregnant women on TikTok taking Tylenol with a big glass of water. I mean, if Donald Trump came out today and said, smoking is dangerous, they'd be ripping filters off Pall Malls by the end of the day and making videos and smoking them one after another. It's bizarre.
Well, if he said smoking is good for you, they would start. Yeah, it's like if he said
no. If he said smoking was bad for you, they would smoke. It wouldn't matter what he said. They'll do the opposite. They will do the opposite, right? And look, Tylenol themselves said back in 2017 in tweets, it's not approved for use by pregnant women. And so it's just silly stuff. Go ahead.
It's approved, but it was cautioned against it. And, Trump in his very simple language says Tylenol, it's bad. Don't do it. Don't take it. But then you had Oz come out and with a more nuance, he said, we're not saying never take it. He's saying be judicious, talk to your doctor, take it only if it's necessary. But this would be wisdom with any drug. You don't want to just be popping things willy-nilly. Everything has a side effect. Every kind of drug, caffeine.
That's exactly
alcohol.
Right. In fact, every drug that's ever been taken off the market was at one time deemed safe and effective. Everyone that's been removed from purchase because it's no longer safe or effective. I mean, this happens routinely, doesn't it?
It does. And common sense would tell you, just don't. I'm trying to think of a nicer way, but it's early in the morning and my brain is don't be an idiot. Don't just take these things willy-nilly. I think we've become very cavalier in our use of pharmaceuticals. Well, I'm sad, I'll take an antidepressant. And there's not enough. We need to restore the doctor-patient relationship where doctors have time with their patients to say, hey, here's a side effect, and pull out that insert in a drug or a pharmaceutical product like that came with the COVID vaccines that I doubt anyone ever read, that has this list of side effects that is this long. And we need to be transparent. I think Kennedy's doing a really good job, and all of his cohorts at the FDA, NIH.
Which, by the way, brings me back to one more thing that I'm sorry, it made me chuckle, but you make me think about it. Who is Donald Trump and the government to tell me whether or not I should take Tylenol? That's terrible. Take the COVID vaccine. Oh, yeah. Where do I get it?
I know.
I'm sorry.
The hypocrisy is stunning. It is quite stunning.
People are so hyper partisan, some of them. It's just ridiculous. And it's frightening, and it creates problems. So I'll give you the last word here. What should be done? How should Big Pharma be handled, in your opinion, and Big Ag, when it comes to liability and people having, real problems that can find resolution?
It's a tricky subject. One thing we won't say is ban products. We're not going to say, no one's asking to come out and say ban glyphosate, ban pesticides. What we're asking for is informed consent across the board with every product, with a pharmaceutical, and the ability to label the way this pesticide shield, they're kind of working it. It's not a direct, it's kind of working through the EPA, and that pesticides companies won't be able to change the labeling unless the EPA changes its kind of standards. And so you don't have local control. States don't have local control. It's a little convoluted, but we're calling for just transparency.
There you go. Good seeing you today. These are good topics that are important. And look, with everything going on, sometimes we miss these important topics, Jennifer, and thank you for bringing these to our attention.
My pleasure, Steve.
Greatly appreciate it. Jennifer Galardi. See, I can say it. I can. Senior Policy Analyst, Restoring America Wellness at the Heritage Foundation's DeVos Center. Coming up, we're going to talk more about farmers and how they are being challenged by Chinese imports and more after this.